Hello everyone and welcome to the Adrian show tonight here on WilliamsTV. Well, tonight with me I have DeanRHeathcote here in the studio, and we will be interviewing him and just sort of catching up on things and seeing his opinions on various things and hearing a little bit about what he's up to these days with all the various roles he has within the community and his business and so on. So hello, Dean.
Hello. Very, very much a pleasure to be here.
Yes, it has been about a year since I last interviewed Dean, so I got a completely new company, new studio and everything, so it's...
Has it really been a year?
Yeah, it's December, yeah, or just under a year, but yeah, it's...
Oh yeah, it would have been when I became... Was it when I became Pie Leader? Was that it?
Social
Democrat,
God.
Yeah.
Yeah, so... Gosh, a lot's happened since then, because I sort of left the UK for a little break not long after that, but and then I come back and everyone's in different roles. But we've got the same Prime Minister still, but somehow...
That's true.
Different party, but same Prime Minister. It's always the same last name anyway, definitely. And has been for the last... Well, ever since your last... I think after you left as Labour Prime Minister, it's pretty much been... Rothschilds ever since for the last 3 years, but oh well, that's
no, it really peeves me off that one of the things I wanted to kind of have when I was Prime Minister was I did kind of want a legacy of like, here's a bunch of people who are going to succeed me, and it's like I wanted a generation. I did get a generation, just not a generation of Prime Ministers apparently, because I mean there's William Arena, who was a National and wasn't exactly a Labourite, and then there's Alan, who wasn't even an MP during my time. And then there's Callum, who very famously defected from my party to join the Liberal Democrats. So it's kind of like the few people that were in my Labour Party just I don't stand for what it stood for.
Right, yeah. But no, it's funny because I do remember, because I was like what, a 14-year-old household cavalry soldier at the time, but I do remember DeanRHeathcote being a big name on the news and everything, and the whole dodgy Dean thing in the sort of summer. But
hey, I hope it still is.
But yeah, I do remember all that, and then the infamous Bile incident, and then we had Schiffer at the time, who's obviously now David Rothschild, come in, and that sort of began the Rothschild era, as I like to call it. We've had a few intermittencies in there, but yeah, we've had a little Rothschild. So yeah, interesting. What's your thoughts on the sort of Rothschild group, as it were?
I mean, I'm jealous of the fact that they've built a dynasty. That's one thing I never managed to accomplish. They have a political dynasty that's managed to live now since technically late 2021, but because that's when like She4 and Michael, at the time known as JBM, or like James B. Monty, and TBU was around at that time. It's like TBU is not a Rothschild. He's very much kind of like was close with them, but that was kind of the seeds were growing back then. And then it, obviously into 2022. I mean, I beat She4 in 2 elections. I beat Michael in 1. So I like to think that I stemmed the tide of the Rothschilds for a bit, but then buyout happened, and then Labour just ceased to exist for a while, or at least in a good state. And then they just dominated politics for as long as they did, and they still kind of do now. But Michael's very much, I think, the head of the family on that front. Obviously, David founded it. I know, like David and Raphael are kind of the sort of family heads, or at least the 2 people that kind of do things for it. But Michael's very much the face of the Rothschilds at the moment. And I mean, he's Prime Minister. He's been Prime Minister several times now. He's built his own little movement, quite a big movement. I can't really predict what will happen next to it. It won't. I don't think it'll be if it is a Rothschild that succeeds him, it will be Nathan. And then I don't really see much longevity after that. I love Nathan, but I don't see him packing a punch like Michael does, or like David did, and so on. But I like the Rothschilds. I get along with them. I mean, of course I do. Speaker of the Commons, I have to kind of get along with them. But they're good chaps. TBU as well. TBU is not a Rothschild, but I get along with him as well. Runs the EC after all.
Yeah, that's interesting because you've sort of got the obviously historically you've always sort of been Labour, Social Democrats, etc., etc. But I suppose now that you're the Speaker, obviously,
Mm.
for those unaware, the Speaker is not sort of permitted to be a member of a party. They're just sort of impartial, as it were. So all by all accounts, sort of an independent MP. What's that like? What's your sort of relationship across the Commons, as it were?
I mean, I know back when I was BBC Director General, I know a lot of people were trying to draw parallels between me and the Social Democrats a lot because I was close with them. I like to think I'm close with every party. Just because I was a Labour Prime Minister doesn't mean I automatically immediately subscribe to the Social Democrats. I don't. I was very much brought in as Social Democrat leader to kind of bail them out a little bit, and I that future in that party wasn't really for me. I didn't quite like it there, so obviously I bounced out after about 40 days. Obviously, that was like December, January time last year, at the start of this year. And yeah, since then I've not been a social democrat really. Like I was on the backbenches for a bit, and then I immediately went for speaker. And I wouldn't call myself a social democrat. I'd call myself a Labourite still, because I always will be a Labourite. That is my background. But I'll never be. I'm not a social democrat. I'm not a unionist. I'm not a national, and I'm not Solidarity. I'm not any of all Gregs. I'm none of the pies. So I get along with them though. You have to as speaker. It's all about getting along with the parties and having that sort of gentleman's agreement. I get along with Sanderson. I think she's a all right leader of the opposition right now. I think she's really scored herself a couple of wins this term. I didn't expect her to. So I've got to give her props for that. There's other moments where I think she's not gone hard enough and kind of let Michael seize the narrative. Michael's a very capable pie leader when he gets things right. When things go wrong, he flounders immensely. But it's very fun to watch that in the Commons, and it's very fun to just watch that generally. So I gotta love Michael. Like, oh, my phone turned off there. Then there's the right on in the Nationals. I like the right on. I think he's a bit too quiet recently. If I had to give him one piece of advice, it's to get louder. I think his party relies on being loud. That's kind of why it did semi well under CZ Investor or Zach. He was loud and it just attracted people. Like it dissuaded some people, but it attracted others. I think Right On's really pulling that off right now. And then there's Solidarity. I know Cota's outgoing, so the contest I think is between Lava and Zach right now. I like to think I get along with them. I think Zach acts like an absolute tosspot sometimes, but and Lava's my former deputy speaker, so I feel obliged to say I like Lava a bit more, but I have to say impartial. But no, I think Solidarity have a bit of a choice to make there. And then what's the final party? I'm missing one, aren't I? That's Unionists. Xbox. I think he's a very interesting person to run the Unionists now. He's a very active MP. He easily wins best MP of the term for me. Like he's so proactive, and I know I'm glazing here, but he's a proactive person who puts effort in. And I feel like that's a quality that is very rare now in Parliament to see that from an individual MP. And I hope he transfers that into the leadership, because then the Unionists might actually make a non-Rothschild comeback, and that would genuinely be earth-shattering if they managed to pull that off. But only time will tell, won't it, Adrian?
Absolutely, and I mean, like you said, Xbox. I mean, I don't really know him personally, but he's a name I've sort of come across a lot and have had contact with, whether that be through, Falkland Islands. They did like a
Mm.
general election about a year ago, and I sort of got contacted to do the sort of election debate for that as such with Williams Media back in the day. But yeah, he's a
Mm-hmm.
name you see in all sorts of places. The RAF. God, pretty much everywhere. So definitely one of the
I can't
proactive.
believe you call them RAF instead of the
Oh
RAF.
no, I like
Can't
calling them
believe you
RAF.
just did
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You got the RAF and the RAF Reg, which is obviously the 4 miler of death. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, he's definitely a name you see all over the shop. And I think it'll be interesting to see where he takes the Unionists to that. But
Oh
earlier
yeah.
you were talking about the Nationals and how they have to be loud. Well, speaking of loud people, I think it's safe to say a
Oh
loud
yeah.
person is planning on entering the political sphere. I think you know who I'm talking on about. He, of course,
I know exactly who
came.
you're talking about. Yes.
He appeared on the show last weekend and also on your
He
BBC
did.
broadcast, which I was, of course, listening to, and sending you wonderful fan mail alongside Xbox as well. Big
Oh
ups
yes,
to him
I
for that.
thank you for your amazing fan art. You know, that, from your son rather. You know, your son aged
Yes,
8 or
my
whatever. I can't
son,
remember.
who's also named Adrian, Adrian Junior. Yeah, that's
Yes.
correct. Yeah. Um, we did take him to a psychologist later on to make sure everything's
I was
okay.
about to say, I feel like you might need to refer him to prevent.
Yeah, there are a few that also weren't aired on BBC, probably for very good reasons as well. He progressively got weirder, but
Yeah. Anyway, Davis.
yes, Davis, that is the man I'm talking about. What's your thoughts on Davis?
I think he's very out of his depth. I say this in the nicest possible terms to Davis, as I I like his energy. I think that is admirable how he carries himself with such confidence when he's just so wrong sometimes. But I think that's part of his character. He's putting on a character for the sake of road politics, and I got to respect that. The only thing is, I my thoughts on him are as follows. I can't see him getting very far in the realm of taking government. Um, he's very loud, which is very characteristic, and that wins you people ultimately. If people like a character, people like someone they can relate to, someone who wins them over. Davis, I think, could potentially have that quality. However, he's dealing with Michael Rothschild. Michael, I wouldn't say Michael's like an amazing election winner by any means, but Michael carries energy of his own, and Michael is talented in just deflecting things. He's very good at deflecting. That's one thing I'll give Michael. You throw the kitchen sink at him, and he'll still be like making moves until he stubs his toe, in which case he just falls to the ground and blames everyone else. But Michael, for the most part, in his own right, is quite good. I don't think Davis is winning against that at all. I think it's going to be clash of egos 101, but Michael's got a far bigger ego that's just, I think, going to crush Davis in his stride. I can't see Four Star Party when if it does get registered, making any kind of gains off Greg's unless Greg suffers like a cataclysmic internal split, or if the entire cabinet just cracks in two, or if something major happens within that party. I think if Michael is still leading into the next election, which he seems like he's going to do, I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. I can't see Davis winning anything off the Greg's party. I cannot see it, and I can't see him making too much of a dent into other parties either. The Nationals, I think, have the most to lose from that, because Davis seems to kind of have the kind of people that would otherwise go national. But I don't know. I feel like if Right On had a master play to play here, that would be to get Four Star to merge international before it registers, and then just use Davis as a tool against Michael or something. I don't know. That's me thinking as a party leader again, which I'm not one anymore. TLDR, I don't think Davis is going to get very far. Much probably to your dismay, Adrian.
Yes. No, that's a fair assessment, I think. I mean, I think you do have a party there that is incredibly experienced with government, having been in government for so bloody long. But I don't
It's not
think
even the party necessarily, it's the faces.
it's
You've
the
got Michael,
faces,
you've got
exactly.
Nathan, you've got a couple of others as well. Chocolate Plays has been in a couple, I think, now. They've just got like kind of like the Rothschild regulars, I think I'm just going to refer to them as. Like the Rothschild regulars, who are like unionist turns Greg's politicians, who tends to gravitate around Rothschild governments, whether that be David ones, Harold ones, or Michael ones. They've got a lot of that, and they're just able to kind of rinse and repeat in a sense. Like Greg's has entirely replaced the unionists as a force. because obviously all the Rothschilds went over to Greg's, but well, other than Harold and Jaden, but that's the other half of the Rothschild family. But anyway, I digress. I don't think Davis is gonna make any kind of gain off of Greg's in the current state of things, at least. Like Greg's are quite entrenched, I would say. It's going to take a lot to move them.
I think another thing the Gregs have as well is because its leaders are so prominent, like you said, and they've been familiar faces for a long time. I also find they're very good at tapping into the voters. Like they seem to be seen as interacting within the wider community rather than just sort of staying within politics, as it were, which I think a lot of parties from sort of over the years I've sort of seen, they're not as quite as good as that as the unionists previously, and now the Rothschilds have. They're quite a prominent force within Westbridge, certainly, and also even within defence as well. I mean, I've made this analysis many times before on the Adrian show, but when you take their sort of conflict in Northern Ireland, there is, I think it's safe to say there's an element of it sort of being a publicity stunt in some ways, because, if you come along and you say, oh, we're going to pump some activity into Northern Ireland and, we're going to go to war with Northern Ireland, you sort of have like the war-leading prime minister effect, which then boosts your sort of popularity.
I think Greg's whole model has been to appear active. Their whole party, I feel like, runs on the fuel of we're the active ones, and I feel like as soon as that runs out, they're toast. A lot of their policy has been centric on we're active and we're pumping activity back into this community. You saw that with like the island stuff. You see that with like a lot of the treasury stuff they're doing. There's a big reason why Nathan is just pumping out content as Chancellor and like pumping out the awards and pumping out the fairs and just all of this stuff, because it gives the idea that he's active, which he is. But it's obviously it works as a very good masquerade over wider like community problems, which I mean every single government kind of has to learn to do that at some point. But Greg's are quite good at it, which makes sense because Michael's been in government before. He knows the issues exist and he knows how to kind of cover them up, or at least get around them to still keep people interested in the government whilst also not looking like he's doing nothing. Which, like, Greg's now, compared to the first 2 weeks of this term, where they looked like they were going to, like, die just on impact, like, die on entry, Greg's are doing quite okay now. Like, 2 weeks, like, on the second week of government, like I'm sure there must have been discussions within Greg's after just how kind of poor things were looking, like the budget and just generally like low approval from people and just general discontent. Like they definitely must have had conversations about we are genuinely in the rough here and like what the hell do we do? But Michael seems to like pull them kind of together now, or at least he's put on the illusion that things are okay. It's just a question of, is that going to last into a general election? And is there going to be a party that shatters that kind of sense of, protection that Greg's kind of have right now with their government?
Absolutely. And I mean, like you said, they're definitely off to a very rocky start there with their government. When I sort of came back to the UK, I think that was sort of not long after the election had happened. And it was literally, I'd never seen so many bloody scandals in my life. I mean, minister after minister.
Yeah, it was
after
looking
minister.
quite bad for them, honestly. By like week 3, it was looking quite bad.
Yeah.
But they turned it around after that. And again, Nathan started off as a really unpopular chancellor, or at least in like political spheres. But he's kind of won a little bit of respect back now from like the event, the like business sort of bazaar that was done, which, mind you. And I'm going to sound like a social democrat here, was like a solidarity pledge that was taken on by Greg's, because Greg's run the treasury. So I'm sure Solidarity are going to try and take that one as their own, but that'll be interesting to see how that dynamic plays out in the later stages of this term and the general election. As parties like to fight over, especially if it's been like a productive coalition, they do like to fight over like who actually achieved what and who gets the credit for what. That's always funny to see with coalitions, but yeah, it's the Gregs of now is not the Gregs of like 2 weeks into this term. Like, it's a very different Gregs. They kind of have thrown a semblance of stability together, but who knows if that'll hold into a general election or if that'll hold into new leadership. Who knows?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, like I said, very rocky start there with scandals after scandals, but then I think what they've done, like you've sort of assessed there, is they've come along and they've brought all these events and they brought in all this activity, and it sort of, as you said, sort of distracts from it a little bit. I mean, I think they had a huge reshuffle at one point as well, and I think things seem to have quietened down a bit since then. I suppose because they've got a new party as well. I suppose it's a lot of them are familiar faces, but I suppose there probably are some new faces in there somewhere.
I think a lot. Oh god, my voice cracked there. A lot of this has to also come down to just failure of the opposition to capitalize on a lot of things. I think the opposition genuinely had an amazing. They had an amazing 2 weeks at the start. I think they really did score some absolutely good punches on Michael, to the point where I think Michael was genuinely bleeding out at some points. However, I feel like they completely ballsed it up after that, the opposition. They've managed to strike down some government bills. Like, that's good. Considering the government's meant to have a majority, they have scored a couple of parliamentary victories, but they've not exploited that. They've not followed it up with going on the attack in public. They've not really banged on about the messaging. They've kind of just left a lot of their wins to solely Parliament, but they've not carried it over into the public sphere. And I feel like that's ultimately where you need to win the votes in the general election and stuff, and to set the mood. And they've not done that. So with that in mind, I can't really give too much credit to the opposition as a whole, at least. I know Xbox has been a very inquisitive MP and now leader. So I guess the Unionists might ramp up a little bit, but Right On hasn't been impressive Parliament side at all. I know he's second opposition leader here, but I really can't give too much credit to him as a party leader right now. He's not been outstanding. And normally, if you're second party opposition, you want to try and set yourself apart. And I feel like he hasn't done that. And Sunnyson's, despite having scored those early victories, I feel like she's, struggling to kind of score not just more victories to kind of, make up for the quietness on opposition benches or his public victories, but also I feel like the sort of the PR the opposition's meant to have at this point, where it's capitalizing on government failures, I don't think they've really been doing that. It's been a bit too quiet, and Michael is the king of deflection. He's the deflector king. Michael's able to deflect a lot of the small stuff that opposition catch him out on. So it's it's really hard to give a positive judgment on the opposition at this point in the term now, at least. At the start of the term, yeah, I would have given them probably 4 out of 5 stars, but now it's I can barely give them 2. I don't know. It's a bit. I can't give too much credit to the opposition right now.
Yeah, no, I mean, from my perspective, I mean, obviously you're in the Commons all the time, so you see stuff, but I obviously not. Well, not yet anyway. But if I'm looking at sort of general news or whatever, or any form of news outcome, or even just the party channels, you don't really hear any form that much scrutiny from any of these other parties. The thing I've heard the most about is the whole Zach proclaiming himself self-proclaimed man of the people, which was quite.
Oh yeah, don't get me started.
Oh, I spent about a good sort of 15 minutes yapping about that on the show last time. But
I genuinely think, by the way, him using the Judicial Spectator, which is meant to be a justice-centered news media outlet or firm, him using that to post what is mostly solidarity news, and then basically proclaiming himself in one of those posts from a judiciary-specific news media firm that he is the man of the people is this is the kind of stuff that gets you persona non grata in politics. So it would have back in the day, you would have been laughed out the room, but no, he's still an MP. He's still a genuine leadership candidate, apparently. I find it very hard to not take the piss out of him for that. I don't know how. Again, I'm saying this as impartially as I can here, but speaking as someone involved in media, not as a politician here, I'm speaking as someone involved in media, I do think that disgraces the sector a little bit. I think it makes the media sector look like a joke when you do stuff like that. And I can't, it really dumbs down the respect I want to have for Zach when he kind of uses news media like that so obtusely for political gain and to like improve his image. I just think it's so pathetic. And it's like, I want to have respect for him, and I do, but it's definitely on a downward trend because of that. And I expect better from someone who wants to position himself as a party leader and, at that, a kingmaker, especially considering Solidarity's position in politics.
Yeah, I mean, I spent the whole most of the show last time, for any regular viewers, yapping about what I like to term slop media, which is where you get these general news companies sort of headed by an MP of some party or cabinet member. Those are the worst usually. And they just use it as their microphone for their like political career.
I'm okay with them if they do it discreetly. Like, there's an art form to using media for political gain. It's called don't be so obtuse about it. Don't be so obvious about it. And like, at least cover your tracks a little bit. Like, I'm not saying we shouldn't have partisan media, but if we're gonna have partisan media, one, can it be better quality? And two, can it actually be done like with like an actual outlet that's designed for politics and not the judicial Spectator, which is apparent. Like, I think like 3/5 of their posts since they've been created or re-registered at least were solidarity-centric news. And then I just think that's so stupid. And the excuse Zach will use is that, oh, well, the Justice Secretary is from Solidarity. It's like, well, one, he's your leadership opponent. And two, that doesn't really give you an excuse because you're talking about the party side of things. And also, he literally used one of the news posts that he made for a Solidarity like advert. So it's just, it's so obvious and it's so pathetic. And I hope he stops and I hope he reconsiders, especially if he's going to go into frontline politics, to which he will be scrutinized more.
I mean, yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, partisan media absolutely does have a place. I mean, this show is partisan media for any regular viewers here. That's probably why they watch it. But and it's the same with all the tabloid stuff as well. I love reading the Scotsman. It's absolutely hilarious. But I general news. I don't know. I get it sometimes but again, as you said, very discreet. Like, and I get it if you want to spread. But again, it's also the Ofcom guidelines as well. I mean, general news is supposed to be impartial, and when you get it's just when they use it. If you want to report on your party events, I mean, fair enough, right? It's, you've got access to that information, you might as well distribute it. But it's like when that's the only thing your news company reports about is the Solidarity Party, and not anything else, and not any of the other parties. Like, can you really call yourself a news company, or are you just like a personal microphone at that point? You know what I mean? It's just
yeah. No, I agree.
And then you're trying to look in general news to go actually find out about information of what's going on, and all you can see is yeah, guys, I'm the man of the people. You should vote for me as party leader. It's a bit.
It annoys me because like that energy could be going into tabloid news. The reason tabloid news exists, I mean, the channel shouldn't even be called that anymore. It should be called newspapers, because the actual license is called newspapers now. It's called newspapers and tabloids, but it should be called newspapers, that channel. I need to talk to mods at some point about maybe renaming some of those channels. I will talk to VOBSM at some point, but and Ofcom. But the tabloid channel is made for partisan and satirical media in a sense. Like, it's made for that. That's why the Scotsman exists. The Scotsman is amazing. It's like a national staple. It's been going in and out of activity since 2022. But whenever it is being posted, it's always funny. It's always great. I mean, there was a time where I was being absolutely bastard by the Scotsman, and to be fair, still technically am to this day. But Doug does a fantastic job with it, and it's great. I don't know why Zach couldn't just put together his own tabloid. I'll give him Private Eye. Zach, if you're listening to this, I'll give you Private Eye, like the trademark. I'll give you it if you use it, and if you use Tabloid and you make it good, I'll give you it. That's my offer.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's brilliant when you have a newspaper and it's saying, hang on, let me get the headline up here. Twink, twonk, jock or bear, 100% bottom. That was absolutely brilliant from the Scotsman. But you know, I
Yeah,
absolutely I love tabloid media. It's great, and when you put partisan media in there, um, that's where it belongs, not in sort of factual, impartial news companies. No, especially ones that are meant to be focusing on the legal side of things, and they only report like the Judicial Spectator that reports about Itzoda being the man of the people. But
mm.
you know,
Anyway.
yeah. Sorry, I've rambled on about that one for a little bit then. I just thought it was funny, but
Mhm.
um, yeah. On the subject of businesses, we're gonna divert a little bit here away from politics and all the rest of it. So obviously,
Yes,
Dean's Inns is a new company. I sort of came back to the community and see this and I go, oh, right, that's cool. So obviously, for those unfamiliar, Dean's Inns is quite a self-explanatory name. It is a pub
it
company
is.
owned by Dean. And
Yes.
how long have you been running that for then?
It was registered back in March. I remember I was approached by someone on Westbridge. I forgot his name now, but he was part of the Prince of Punjab when they were registered. And I was extended an offer to work for them at some point, but then I think I teased the idea to him of I might I might make my own pub company at some point. I might make my own, but it depends on like development. It depends on motivation. Um, and so the name Dean's Inns comes from a show that I've always wanted to do, like an actual proper, well thought out, semi-scripted show that I wanted to do back for RTE when I was in Ireland for a bit, and then the BBC before I ran the BBC. Never got to work on it. Blair and I just never found the time. It was going to be very high effort, and we just never got around to it. Happy Hour is very similar to what Dean's Inn was going to be, but Happy Hour I've also not done for a bit, so I need to do a second series of that. But anyway, so I registered it in March, and it was kind of there for a little bit. It was registered actually when Wayne was offering to put in private sector businesses on Westbridge, but then he dropped out of the dev team. So Dean's Inns was kind of in limbo for a little bit. The Inns were in limbo. And it was only when the government dev, I think, came along that we got implemented in the game. I believe it was the government dev. I think that was around the same time that when Poison was brought on the team that we got added in. And yeah, we got the Red Spectre on Westbridge, hoping to get the Duke of Leinster renovated at some point, because Blokeston's given the all clear for that. So hopefully we'll have a second location on Westbridge, and we'll be hopefully in Glasgow as well, in the Middletown game. So we'll hopefully have a Northern Ireland presence as well, and we'll hopefully be the first Anglo-Irish operating company for a while at least. So there's a lot of plans, but I'll let you keep asking the questions before I spoil too much.
Oh, brilliant. So yes, so obviously, well, I mean, Dean's Inn's being a pub company is obviously a pub company now. It also
Mm.
seems to be quite a charitable company. At obviously before you did your general election pledge, that was sort of before I came back, but I sort of heard about it because it was not long
Mm.
before I came back. Um, but at the business fair last weekend, which I will talk about a little bit later on, I was going to earlier, then subsequently forgot to. Um, you announced that you would pledge you would make a charity pledge towards homelessness. I cannot remember the exact details, so could you tell
It
us a
is
little bit about that?
£100 to Shelter, who are a homelessness charity. Yeah, I was going to throw £100 at them. That is, of course, dependent on overtaking the National Roadside Service for the Dean's Inn server to overtake the NRS Discord server in size by Christmas, basically. So by the 25th of December, hopefully Dean's Inns will have more than 144 people in the Discord, because I think the NRS server has stabilized at about 144. So if we overtake them, I'm giving money to charity. I'm giving it to Shelter. So a little bit of motivation. You know, the AA lives on in our hearts, Adrian, doesn't it? I
Yes.
feel like, you know, you can empathize on that
Well,
front.
no, I
Do you
was
remember the
always,
AA? You remember working for them?
I was always a RAC employee, so I have absolutely no empathy for them
Oh,
whatsoever.
right. Oh, bloody hell! I can't believe this. Well,
uh,
you must mourn for the loss of a truly great competitor, surely.
yes, this is true. This is true. They were much better than Jack Boys. will admit they were always giving us a run for the
Oh
money. But
dear.
I do remember though when Jack Boys disappeared, I was like, why the hell have they done that then? But yes, AA disappearing was not on my bingo cards. Like I leave the UK for a few months and come back, and it's like, where the bloody hell's AA gone? But
That whole situation still annoys me, and AA very much, I think, died for our sins. They were very much martyred off there. AA were very much martyred,
hmm.
you know, to stop what was a very stupid group staff policy. And I have a lot of respect for Simple and like Daniel and like the members of group staff, but that was an absolutely stupid decision. And it's not one I'm going to exactly forget. And I don't like the NRS. The NRS was built on the corpse of AA, and it's I don't like the company. The staff are great. I mean, Simply Berio, who works for Dean's Inns, is an amazing HR manager of ours, and he built the Dean's Inn bot. I have to give a lot of credit to him, and also his company, SB Group. He does a lot of bot-related stuff. He's awesome. I mean, he works for NRS, but he's awesome. You know, I have nothing against the employees, but the company itself, I have a massive problem with its existence. So if we overtake them, you know, if the Inns does overtake the NRS Discord server in size, then I'll be giving £100 a shelter, because I think that's a very good thing to do, especially coming towards Christmas. Homelessness is a big problem in the UK, and it really shouldn't be a problem in a modern country like ours, you would think, but it is. My dad has always said to me that one of his biggest fears is, to become homeless. Like, there's nothing worse than that, pretty much, happening in your life, because anything could happen to you on the streets. So it's a problem that shouldn't exist in, again, such a modern country like ours. With such a great country like ours, I have a lot of pride for Britain, and I do think we need to end it. So I'm giving £100. So hopefully one day put an end to it. That's on top of my normal great election pledge, as mentioned, which I'll let you explain that as well, because I think you're familiar with it.
Not hugely. I sort of looked into it
Oh,
roughly and was like, I think, was it £880 across the community in total? It was, I believe.
so for the context of the audience, or anyone who's not already familiar with it, the Great Election Pledge is that for every vote cast at the general elections that take place in this community every 2 months, roughly, and this is, of course, snap elections, which is when the government basically collapses. So every general election, we look at how many votes are cast. So, for example, let's say about 300 votes. That means you would donate 10p per vote. So that's that's £30 to charity. Essentially, that's the idea of the Great Election Pledge. It's the kind of tie one's charitable contributions to the political and general activity of the community via those election turnouts. So it's turning what is community activity, that being the simple act of casting a vote for God knows who in this community, and turning that into a real life good by giving literally 10p per vote to a charity of your choice. I chose I chose Shelter, or it was either Shelter or Crisis was one of the ones I think it was Crisis. I'm trying to remember now, because I did so many, because I also matched the contributions of party leaders as well. So all my emails are just I've got lots of charity emails now. Let's put it like that. So I think I donated to Crisis, and we raised £880 across 21 charities. I think the largest donation was Calf Antilles, who's a former developer for the community, and like member of like Raw Household stuff. He donated, I think, about £100 to. I think he did £100 to Cancer Research UK, if I remember correctly. He did a very big donation as part of the pledge. So you can technically choose your own amount, but if you want to do the 10p per vote, you can. That's the recommended one. So that's what the pledge is. And yeah, we did £880 at the last election. I'm hoping we cross 1,000 this month. I really want to cross 1,000.
Mm. No, that's definitely a very noble cause. I'll probably have to join in at a much reduced rate because I am not a
That's
man of
fair.
employment. So
Well, I
I'm
mean,
the unemployed final boss,
Archie,
of course. But
yeah, Archie, who's the permanent secretary at the Home Office, he did, I think, 5p per vote, I think. So you can always half it. You can just do like half, and then you get like instead of like if it's 300 votes instead of £30, that would be £15, for example. Like,
yeah,
you can do it at whatever measure you want. The whole point is, you donate basically. That's the whole idea of the Great Election Pledge. You donate, during that period of time, the election period, you pledge during that period. That's kind of the idea behind it.
absolutely. I think it's a very good thing as well, being able to utilize the community as such to do actual good things for the world, rather than just
Mm.
providing um, people with I don't know. Uh, I don't know, role play, but we can contribute to the world in some way beyond whatever we
Yeah.
do. You know what I mean? Anyway, so I was sort of not sure what to say, but yes, very very good pledge as such. I think we can all agree. Um,
Mhm.
God, I've got a brain fart now. I was going to ask you some more questions about your company, but I can't remember what they were.
There
Oh
was
yeah,
a BBC article the other day about brain fog that I saw. Apparently, there was a BBC presenter who had to actually hold a paper with notes because their brain just got so fogged up they forgot absolutely everything they were meant to talk about.
oh right, that might be me then. Maybe I should look at the BBC, but that's me when I was stitching my Trump clips together. But anyway,
Oh
um,
no.
anyway, oh yeah, the NRS. So I'm
Hmm.
assuming there's a a dislike there because of what it the want what it the foundations of what was once there that it now stands on. I'm assuming that's
Yeah, again, I have absolutely nothing against the employees. We don't exactly ban NRS employees from the inns. Let's put it like that. We don't. We serve them. We serve them like anyone else because the inns welcomes absolutely everyone. Ultimately, and it's my problem is with the company and it's with the way it was founded and what was sacrificed in order to just put what is ultimately just this absolute, I mean, dare I say, abomination of a corporation that's kind of been put in place of what was a very big staple of the community. The AA was founded by like Louis and or Lewis, sorry, by Lewis and by Nathless as well. Like it was founded in May 2021, I believe, because I remember I was in politics around that time, and I was becoming Labour leader around that time, or at the end of that month. And it was founded around then, and it since grew into obviously one of the UK's biggest companies, one of the UK's biggest employers. And to see that just get completely trampled on, and to see that as well that group staff were so uncompromising as well, even though the policy got abandoned, the like takeover of private sector like assets and so forth, like the discords and the groups, even though it got abandoned, the policy was abandoned, they still claimed the life of the AA as like kind of penance for that, and just sort of and threw all the blame on Lewis, and I just think it's disgraceful. And again, I like Daniel, I like Simple, I like them guys, but it was disgraceful conduct, so I'm not going to look very lightly on it ever. And to see that all the greatness of AA as like a big company in this community that gave this, like ultimately contributed to this community's like private sector identity, just be replaced by a very bland corporation that's just a group staff creation to try and supplement the like repair sector, like the roadside repair sector, in order to obviously give RAC a semblance of a competitor still. I just think it's pathetic and I don't like it. And in an ideal world, we'd still have the AA, but we have the NRS instead. And I very much want to overtake the major, and let's just put it bluntly, I want to overtake them. I feel like the Inns deserves more people than they do. So I
no.
want to overtake them. And if we do, then I'm giving money to shelter.
No, I was gonna say at first when I first heard about that, I was like, "Oh, NRS, that's very specific. There must be a reason behind it. Evidently, there is." But for my own interest, because obviously I sort of got busy with life and so on, and sort of took a break from the UK. I think it was officially from April, but it was in reality it was from January. So
Hmm.
I leave. I've only left the UK twice. And each time something has radically, well, not really radically changed, but the first time I left, we've got the Tories, we've got Labour, we've got Lib Dems, and then I come back like 6 months later, and we've got Social Democrats, Unionists, and Nationals, and Pirates. It was back then, and the four-party cap, which thank God got removed. Um, and obviously, I subsequently found out what actually went on there, so I'm not going to delve into that too much since that's ancient history for
Hmm.
many people at this point. But obviously, I leave the UK. We've got AI. I come back and, oh, where the bloody hell is it? We've got NRS. So what actually happened there?
Essentially, what happened is group staff came out with a policy where they pretty much wanted private sector groups and discords to be under group staff ownership. So you know how like the UK server is obviously owned by the group owners, government departments are owned by members of group staff. They essentially wanted to do the same with private sector assets and groups, which just completely trounces on not just the independence of the private sector, but especially with companies that are like pet projects, like in-game companies that are very much like someone's pet project, and obviously the culmination of someone's efforts, like the AA, which Louis paid for the bot. He made all those, he got those assets commissioned and whatnot, and built that company from the ground up to kind of be asked to give over control of those assets to just a member of group staff. I'd also be quite miffed. And obviously, around this time, I had obviously my ins had been created, and we were looking at in-game implementation. And I very bluntly said, I'd rather not get implemented in-game at all if I had to hand over my server and my group to group staff. I wouldn't want to do that because it just takes away so much agency and like it takes away so much agency from company owners when it's like we own that, we created that. That's our design. We have the right to kind of own these things. You know, like if a private sector group has been sabotaged or is acting up, you remove them from the game. It's as simple as that. But this kind of policy of control went beyond that, and thankfully, group staff U-turns, but not so thankfully, they claimed AA as part of it because AA actually was the first company to be contacted about this policy and the first one to kind of be asked to give up their stuff. And Louis deregistered the company in order to, stop group staff from taking it. He deregistered the company. And then when he tried to re-register it, they denied it when the policy got reversed. Like group staff went out of their way to prevent AA from getting their stuff back and getting back into the private sector. And I think the way group staff behaved was just disgraceful and terrible. I don't have very. There's a lot more colourful vocabulary I'd like to use for that, but I'm very conscious of the fact it's only 7:35 right now, or 7:37. So you know, long story short, AA got done over, Adrian, to put it very bluntly to you, and Louis kind of got his company. Lewis got his company martyred. Um, Again, I think it protected the private sector at large, and obviously group staff abandoned that policy and whatnot. But it doesn't set a great tone that do we just have to start throwing the kitchen sink at group staff in order to get them to stop doing just terrible things? Like, is this what the community's come to? It's like I hope group staff have learned lessons from that, where they're not going to undertake such unpopular decisions and just go against the will of the community, because the amount of like there's times where I'll side with group staff and then there's times completely undermine defending group staff, and it's just I don't have words, Adrian. I don't have words.
Yeah, no, I mean, now I've heard that's quite a shocking story, especially given, the fact you said he's put money into the thing. And, I mean, we're both technically business owners here. Media are just sort of a bit smaller scale, but you still put effort into your company. I think anyone who owns a company in any form, they respect the idea that you put this is your company. You know, this is my
Mm.
Williams TV. I put time into this. I designed the kind of graphics and so on. You know, it's what my time goes into. So it shouldn't really be owned by someone else. If you just do something they don't like, they go, oh, well, this is all mine now. That's not really
I think it also
good.
just takes away a lot of like
Mm,
role play control as well, because
yeah.
like if a company falls through, then that gets the government involved. The government can then put in mitigating measures. The government can intervene and do things. Obviously, if there's like safeguarding involved, then group staff handle that. That's fine. You know, certain people are maybe removed, certain people are dealt with. That's fine. But you know, you don't need to control the bloody assets. You just don't. You don't need to do that to accomplish safeguarding. In no other nation would you need to do that. Why the hell do you have to do it here? The safeguarding strategy of group staff is just confuses me so much. And like, as someone who works kind of in an environment where safeguarding is a thing, I just think it's absolutely abysmal the way they handle things. It's like, if you had like a business auditor come in and look at it, they'd probably blow their brains out. Like, I do not have too many words, and you know, I hope my charitable act will avenge AA in a sense. You know, we're going to turn the death of AA and its replacement by NRS into a charitable good, I suppose. £100 towards ending homelessness in the country.
Yeah, no, definitely interesting subject. Well, staying on the track of businesses then, we'll go back a little bit
Mm-hmm.
into the politics realm a little bit and talk about the um, business fair that happened last Saturday. Obviously, we were both there. That's
Yes.
sort of how this interview was arranged to begin with, but um, and you're obviously speaking there. I mean, my take was I think it was pretty well organised. Definitely a very good, makes the government look very good. I think Nathan and um, Chocolate put a lot of effort into that. My only real sort of problem with it is I think there were absolutely no. I think the idea to even allow sort of weapons and so on in game was just very obviously going to go
I
down a
mean, they had
toilet.
the new bomb dealer update released, literally, I think right before that event, and then people were able to buy the bombs, and they forgot to delete the dealer. Um, that's a bit of nice, like alliteration there. Buy the bombs and delete the dealer. Yeah, they
Yeah.
forgot to do that, and yeah, they obviously got blown up about 2 or 3 times. I survived all the explosions. I'm
Oh,
a
did you?
survivor of
Oh,
that.
right. I
Yeah, I
didn't survive that.
survived both.
I survived one, even though I stood right next to where the guy with the bomb went off, but then died in the other one, so I was
Oh.
miles away. It didn't make any sense, but um,
Hmm.
yeah. So, what was your, your
Well,
your opinion on the whole event then?
Um, I think it was a overall a successful event. Obviously, it paints the government a very good image, and I think I enjoyed the speeches. I think the fact that there were the explosions didn't help. I think that really put a damper on it. But I think all things considered, it was successful. The only criticisms I have is that my stand was red on black instead of black on red, which is what I would have preferred. But that is such a little nitpick. And also, my other nitpick is that I was put right next to the NRS stand or opposite it, and I don't like that. So Nathan already knows this. Nathan, this is not news to Nathan. I told him this in the GC. But other than that, which are very minute criticisms, and honestly, I don't care. It was all right. I think that the other issue is that a lot of people weren't really moving around and exploring the stands, which is a kind of an issue you get at a lot of fairs. Like, there wasn't a lot of interactivity other than the speech, but I mean, obviously the BAF stands get a lot of attention because there's a bunch of BAF people. Wow, who knew? But I think for the wider private sector, I feel like we didn't get a lot of people on our stands. But other than that, I think it was an overall successful event. It puts a spotlight on the sector and well, on the private sector and public sector, because they also had stands and stuff as well. The government had stands. So, I thoroughly enjoyed making a speech as well. And yeah, it was a good event.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair assessment. I mean, from my perspective, the only thing that would have been a bit nice was if things had actually gone to the timings a little bit more. I mean, I know that's partly
Mm.
because of the security oversights. I think that was a big problem as well. I think they should have just removed all of the weapons from the game temporarily, because having Met trying to do security, I mean, bless their little con socks, but they're not gonna stop it. I mean, it's just gonna ruin it. It just, yeah. It's very sweet when they're trying to help everyone and keep us all safe, but unfortunately they're not. They do let quite a few people slip through the net sometimes, and I think that
To be fair, Met do a quite a good job with events normally.
yeah.
I've used them quite a lot for events, and I've been at a lot of events where they've done the protection. And to be fair, there's only like a couple times where they kind of let someone slip through. But other than that, I do rate protection commands quite a lot. And like like their events sort of team. They're very good, and I always love going on Westbridge sometimes. It's not for a while now, at least, but it's always good to talk to like the PPOs and stuff like that, the personal protection officers you get when you're going on as an MP and stuff. It's always quite nice.
Yeah, I mean, I think generally they're pretty good. I mean, I've been to sort of business things or political things in the past, usually on a much smaller scale, and they were all right. I think one of the biggest
Hmm.
problems they had was just partly the layout. It's very easy for people to slip through that net as such, and also just the general sort of um, pressure on them. It was a very, very, very big event, like way bigger than it usually events are. And when I was one of the first people there, so I was waiting at the door for absolutely ages to get in. But when they eventually did let people in about sort of 5 minutes later, whenever, people just sort of swarmed through rather than queuing up, which is very un-British of them. But um, I think they sort of struggled to get everyone through, and there would have been some people that just snuck through. And again, it's partly to do with the layout. You come in, you've got the sort of small bit where the things are, where they sort of scan you, but you can sort of hop over the tables, as it were, and then you've got this absolutely massive, great big opening out into the wilds, and people can just sort of sneak through if you're not careful. I mean, they did have
Hmm.
police tapes up and stuff, but I think they took it down sometimes, and people would just make it through. So I do think the security was the biggest problem with that, and also it'd be nice if things had run to time, because I did have that interview with Davis like straight after, which I had to put back by like 15 minutes or so. But I would
Yeah.
have liked to have been there for longer as well, because I was only there for a little
Yeah.
while. But
Yeah. But generally
s-
speaking, quickly
yeah,
going back onto my ins, just because there's a couple more things I will mention. But it is going well so far. I think uh, I have never been a big face in the private sector side of the community. I don't think I really am still. But it's very nice to kind of get involved in it at long last and do something different. With Westbridge becoming so boring, quite bluntly. It's so important for companies to diversify a little bit, and I feel like I've done quite a lot with the ins in trying to make us a Discord side as much as we are game side. Like, we're not just a pub. Like, there's ultimately you come down when we do a startup, you get a drink, you have a chat with our staff, probably me as well. And we have a laugh and whatnot. But there's so much more to the ins beyond that, and we hope to kind of try push on with that as well, especially in trying to rejuvenate the community a little bit, not to use too many buzzwords, but yeah, I'm going to definitely slip into my politician mode a little bit there, because we recently launched our institute. I said, yeah, with two
oh
ends,
yes,
just to quickly tell you, it's the institute, which is our sort of like political consultancy wing, which I do politics, obviously, as we've learned tonight, quite a bit of it, in fact, and the ins brings a lot of, I think, passion to the community. At least I do, and I definitely want that reflected in government policy. So we're definitely going to be advocating for that via the institute, and we have our initiatives. I mean, the Great Election Pledge is an initiative. Again, in initiative with two ends here.
yeah.
That's something that is under the ins, and that's something advertised by the ins. And it is one of our initiatives to try and turn community activity into a real life good, and we definitely want to keep doing that. Going into the rest of this year, going into December and into the new year, especially. And yeah, things are looking up. We're looking at Northern Ireland expansion. We're potentially going to become an actual fully fledged British business in Ireland. and we're going to hopefully operate on both sides of the border, and we're going to bring a lot of activity to both countries, and a lot of innovation with two ends to both sides of the border. So I would say we're not the biggest business.
Oh, it's lagging out a little bit.
In this community right now. So I would say, all in all, the inns are doing pretty good.
Yes, that is good to hear, and I love the in puns there as well. So going into your
Mm-hmm.
initiative there with the or in institute, tell me a little bit about that because I was going to mention that, but I completely forgot about it until then. But that did catch my eye when you announced that, and I thought that was really interesting. So tell me a little bit more about what you actually want to do with that then.
So essentially, the institute is the sort of political. It's the political consultancy wing of the inns. It is very much run by myself and Blair. For those who don't know, Blair was my campaign manager during my time at the Labour Party as leader for 323 days straight. He fought 7 elections with me, and he's done 7 elections with me in this community at least. When I was leader, did one with Alan. I was obviously with him with that as well, and one in Ireland. So it's got a lot of election experience. I've got lots of government experience. We've kind of put those two things together again in the form of the Institute, and that's just our political consultancy wing that's going to be able to advise parties should they request advice. We very much, of course, will keep that advice very confidential because Dodoy, of course, we're going to bloody do that. Who do we look like? Persian? Going to tell everyone's little secrets? No. So, that's kind of our little political project to kind of as like a side thing, because obviously I'm not in party politics anymore, but I'd very much like to advise parties on best political and campaigning strategy in as impartial of a means that I possibly can. But it's a service available to all parties. We're not going to discriminate. Blair and I just want to see active campaigning politics again. So that's what the institute is for you, Adrian.
Right, okay, so you're basically taking your experience as now a political unk and ploughing it into
Pretty
the
much.
community. That's a very I think I sort of assumed that's what it was, but good to get some clarity on that. And then
I wouldn't even call myself a political uncle. I'd say political grandfather at this point. It's been too many years, man.
yeah, I know. I mean, I've been in this community for almost 4 years now, and you were the sort of Labour leader at the time, and all the way at the top somewhere, and I was this little, household cavalry soldier right at the start of my career here, and
Mhm.
here I am coming sort of, I don't know, rising up in the world, eh? But it is funny that, but yes, it is. I think that's definitely a good idea there, and it's interesting that you've opened up to all parties as well. It's not just sort of an exclusive thing to
Yeah, no, I
users
mean,
you like.
literally, if any party wants to get a service from myself and Blair, then yeah, we're of course going to give it. I mean, as long as there's obviously that respect between all parties involved, pardon the pun, yeah, then of course we're going to be able to work with them and kind of do whatever. Really, Blair and I are very much in the business of just wanting things to be better and to be nicer and to be more fun. And we also love colourful campaigns, and a lot of the campaigns have been missing that recently. So we're very much in the business of helping parties out with that. So if they do want to contact us, then they can, and we're happy to, help out with that. I mean, I probably have to prod Blair with a stick a little bit because he's learning to be a pilot right now. But he's probably going to be flying planes whilst giving political advice to unionists or something.
That's an amazing thing to do as a pilot. Yeah, hang on, guys, we can't take off yet. I've got to let Davis here
Attention
know how to.
passengers, we're going to be delayed by about 10 minutes. I'm going to have to give some political advice here to some clients. Thank you.
Yes, of course, Xbox Formula here, my good friend from the Unionist Party on Roblox. You should all join the
Yeah.
Roblox Sovereigns UK group right now. I know its airflow mode is, of course, on at this point, but I will allow you to turn it off and break all my navigation systems just to do that. And obviously, join the institute whilst you're at it, and watch WilliamsTV on the airplane as you would do,
Yeah.
of course, because I've got to get the little
I don't think
thing.
Blair would say that.
No, no, no. He probably doesn't even know what it is. But I think you got. Sorry, I just have to get my little plug in there, of course,
Of course, of course.
as the face of British television at the moment.
Yeah, that's that. But that's what the institute is. I do have some other initiatives planned, but that's the most recent one that's come out.
Yes, I think that it's definitely a very innovative. Excuse the pun. It was intended. But
Oh, don't worry. I am saving the innovative pun. Don't worry. That is being kept in reserve for something. Like I won't spoil that one yet, but it's we're cooking. We are cooking.
I see, I see. That's yes, I do like that. I think that the usage there is a very good punning. I always like a good pun. I'm sure everyone does. If you don't, well, then you're a bit boring, aren't you? But
Hmm.
so I thought I was going to talk about something, but I forgot what it bloody was now. Oh yes, politics. So yes, going in. So you say you've seen a lot of sort of boring campaigns
Mhm.
as such. Could you elaborate a little bit on that?
I think a lot of campaigns lack motivation and they lack momentum. I think is the word I'm looking for there. I think a lot of the time you don't really see. How do I describe it? I'm kind of trying to like look for the vocabulary there in the Oxford Dictionary, but parties haven't got the same energy as they did a few years ago. I feel like you don't have the same like passion for the community and actually doing good. A lot of it is just like trying to do the bare minimum. And you can kind of see that in the manifestos. There's just so many ideas that are quite literally recycled, but also not actually changing anything. There's not a lot of innovation, coming back to that. And I feel like if parties are going to actually inspire people to get higher into the group, inspire people to aspire, then they obviously need to actually meet the expectations of pledging to rejuvenate this community. To use that word again, lots of buzzwords tonight. So I feel like with the institute, what Blair and I kind of want to do is teach parties, or to parties who want to kind of get in consultation with us, kind of act as a point of consultation for like making sure policy ideas are innovative, building on like ideas that a party may have, and kind of building them into an actual like core principle of a party. Like obviously, social democrats are going to want stuff that's workers' rights related. We could certainly help with that. I mean, my God, workers' rights was kind of my thing, not to boast. The unionists might want to go for something more sort of business focused, potentially patriotic, or more sort of like national community esque. Nationals might have something similar to that as well, and we can definitely work with them on it. Nationals in particular, they're going to want to probably go hard with the populism, and Blair and I know a bit of populism, and Greg's it's going to be a combination of populism and, dare I say, cult personality with Michael. And trust me, I can run a cult personality. So, we want to kind of help parties play on their strengths and tie in more innovative practices into their policy formulation and their actual campaign management. So actually making use of the fact that, yeah, you can DM lots of people now. Make use of the fact that, yeah, there is a game called Westbridge and there's limitations, but you can work within those limitations. If you just have, you put in the effort and you just coordinate enough, we can help with that. That's kind of the idea with the Institute. It's to provide resources and ideas and advice to parties should they request it.
Yeah, very interesting to. So on the sort of subject of politics as a whole, do you think there's sort of lack of experience, as it were, or do you, and also from another perspective as well? I remember seeing, sort of going a little bit off topic here, but still on the sort of track of newer politicians, I suppose. I remember seeing, I think it was the Nationals at one point. It was one of the very few things I've actually done of criticising the government, and it was when they had I think it was some Greg's Party MPs that were like backbenchers that were sort of um, not parliamentary professional, I think is the best way to put it. What's your sort of views on that? And especially since you're obviously the common speaker, so parliamentary etiquette is something you must be very
There's
familiar with.
there's been a couple of MPs this term who have got on my nerves, but there's other MPs that have been just astoundingly good. I've already glazed Xbox enough, but Kamala's also been, quite a soldier. I think she gets a lot of flack for a few things, but she is a soldier in Parliament, and I have to respect that. And she's Shadow Commons leader as well, so I've got to kind of be nice to her just in case she does get into power and becomes the policy maker for Parliament. But no, there's a couple of MPs across the chamber who I don't hate them. I feel like hate's a very strong word. It's more they can be a bit aloof and annoying at times, and I feel like they don't fully understand that it just is not a good look, and it just generally puts Parliament into disrepute. And if they do know that, then they're acting maliciously. Ultimately, Parliament is meant to be fun, but that fun should not, ruin it for other people. It shouldn't get in the way of business. It's fine to interrupt a couple of times in Parliament. That's fine, as long as you're not being a complete twat, to use that term. Then it's usually fine. But sometimes people do cross over that line, and it's very bad. So there's a couple of people like that. I'm not going to kind of harp on too much about the Nationals' particular criticism, mostly because I'm not here to promote the content of a party, or at least confirm the content of a party. But I would say that it's always been a concern of mine for many terms now that there's certain MPs who don't act very professionally, and ultimately party leaders just need to make sure that they do. Or the party whips need to make sure that they do, because that's a responsibility of the whips to enforce discipline, both in terms of the whipping instructions and behavioural terms.
Yeah, no, definitely interesting to hear your takes on that. But I suppose, yeah, as long as there's sort of more experienced ones that can guide the less experienced ones, I suppose that's something it's always good to have, I suppose. As long as you've got that. But yeah, I know I do get what you mean though in terms of things sort of quietening down. I do think that the colour that politics used to have, where you'd have them absolutely lashing out at each other um, all the time, was absolutely brilliant. I used to sit all the time. Um, and I think we've lost that. I think we've definitely lost that. I think we
Mm.
just see. Um, I mean, if you just look at the channels now, it's like, I mean, yeah, it's literally. I mean, some of them have like made like only two posts in the last 2 weeks and so on, and half the time they don't really attack the other parties particularly well. I think they did a lot at the start of term, definitely, sort of going back into October. But it's most of the way through November already, and there's barely. I mean, it's Nationals I'm looking at now. There's barely anything on the Social Democrats as well. I just think they seem to have lost their ability of sort of, like you said, campaigning and bringing colour to it.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, yeah, kind of summarizes my thoughts as well, to be quite frank.
Hmm. Um, but with that anyway, I think
Hmm.
that's most of the points I've wanted to talk about. I mean, I could chat for a very long time. I'm sure you could. I
I
mean,
could as well.
this broadcast is already um, longer than I usually go for, by about sort of 15 minutes or so, which is very good. And we've had decent viewership. I mean, we've sort of had about three that have been consistently here, which is thank you to whoever that was. I think we've dropped down to one now, so whoever's still there. Thanks for hanging on.
Hello, whoever's
Yeah.
still watching. Good to meet you. I'm Dean.
Yes, and I'm Adrian, of course. But with that, I think we'll start wrapping stuff up then. So, is there anything else you'd like to sort of say on here?
Uh, Nothing else other than to the one viewer who is still here. Join in on the great election pledge, please. That'd be awesome if you do. The election's at the end of November, start of December, I think it is. So I'll double check the dates, but it's like start of December, I think, is election week. So that's when I'm announcing the second great election pledge. It's the second ever one. So join in on that, please. It'll be awesome. Oh, it's Lava. Hello, Lava. Yeah, Lava, join the election pledge.
Right, brilliant. Hello, Lava. That's good to have you watching again, because I do remember you watching last showing. And obviously, good luck with beating the man of the people there as well.
Yeah.
But with that, then we'll start to wrap things up there. So just before I do end things, though, just to sort of go over the schedule we've got here for viewers as to what's coming up on Williams TV, because we have got a very busy schedule. It seems to become very popular out in there, which is absolutely lovely to see. But tomorrow at 6 o'clock, we have an interview with National MP. I've just realised I've misspelt that there on the advertisement. Oh well, we've got the National MP there. Polly Damos, he'll be here at 6 o'clock tomorrow. Sunday, 5 p.m, we have the Foreign Secretary, Not Chocolate Plays, of course, from the Greg's Party. Again, here on the Adrian Show. And then also on Sunday, busy day, we have the King Alexander's Jubilee Parade, which I'll be providing coverage on, thanks to an old contact within the Guards, which will obviously be on Williams' event, so that will be here as well. Again, that will be Sunday at 8 o'clock. And there may also be a sort of shortened video thing of some other rehearsals for that, but if I can get down to the rehearsals, that tomorrow, so that would be probably airing on Saturday. But there you go, dear viewers, that is the Williams TV program for the weekend. So please do stay tuned, of course, for all of those. I'm sure there'll be some good television moments there. But with that, thank you all very much for tuning in. I've been Adrian Williams here from the Adrian Show here on Williams TV, and a big thank you to Dean, of course, for coming on the show tonight. It's been lovely to have you on here, Dean. And to sort of catch up again on our second interview, sort of a year on as such.
Yep, indeed. Pleasure to be on as always.
Lovely, thank you, Dean. I'm sure we can have you on at some point in the future once there's some more topics to talk about, which I'm sure there'll be plenty of. I'm sure this election should hopefully be quite interesting, and there should be a lot to talk about, hopefully. Especially if you can offer some innovative solutions there. But anyway, with that, thank you all for watching. Stay tuned, of course, for this weekend's programming, and have a lovely evening. Goodbye.